Every day on this channel, we go through everything Trump talked about on Truth Social over the last 24 hours. And we saw yesterday that Donald Trump imposed a 10% worldwide tariff in response to the Supreme Court overturning his IEEPA tariffs. Trump escalates that further today, saying, based on a thorough, detailed, and complete review of the ridiculous, poorly written, and extraordinarily anti-American decision on tariffs issued yesterday, after many months of contemplation by the United States Supreme Court, please let this statement serve to represent that I, as President of the United States of America, will be effective immediately, raising the 10% worldwide tariff on countries, many of which have been ripping the United States off for decades without retribution until I came along, to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level. During the next short number of months, the Trump administration will determine and issue the new and legally permissible tariffs, which will continue our extraordinary successful process of making America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And yesterday, he called out the Supreme Court justices who voted against his tariffs. Trump said, "I think it's an embarrassment to their families." And he says, "My new hero is United States Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh and, of course, Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that they want to make America great again." And Trump also says Netflix should fire the racist, Trump-deranged Susan Rice immediately, or pay the consequences. He says, "She's got no talent or skills, purely a political hack. Her power is gone and will never be back." How much is she being paid? Oh, and for what? Thank you for your attention to this matter. And this is because Netflix's board member Susan Rice says corporations who took a knee to Trump will face an accountability agenda from elected Democrats if they win the midterms in 2026 and the 2028 presidential election. And let's look at the Save America Act, which is still gathering support in the Senate. The White House says out of nearly 10,000 Americans surveyed, a staggering 93% support voter ID. The message is loud and clear. The American people want secure elections. Pass the Save America Act. And Trump reposted that, as well as saying only Americans should be voting in American elections. And Trump calls Republicans so disloyal to themselves. He says, "Unite, stick together, and win," President DJT. And he endorses Greg Abbott for governor of Texas, as well as the Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And he shows how he has influence in elections. This is the Republican primary polling in Indiana. You can see before Trump's endorsement, Tracy Powell's at 18%, and after the endorsement, 42%. And the Great Salt Lake in Utah has lost 70% of its volume. And so Trump says it's very important to save the Great Salt Lake in Utah. This is an environmental hazard that must be worked on immediately. "It is of tremendous interest to me. The people of Utah are spectacular and they deserve to be helped. I'm dealing with your very caring governor, Spencer Cox. We're going to make it all happen. Make the lake great again, President Donald J. Trump." Trump shares a few corruption stories, including a FBI memo that confirms a 2022 report on Biden's involvement in a raid of Trump's Mar-a-Lago property. And so Trump's calling out Biden, saying that he weaponized the Justice Department. But let's look at this that Trump reposts. It's from CNN.
"It's almost impossible to miss the new banner bearing President Trump's face that just went up here at the Justice Department. If you've been in Washington in recent months, you've seen similar ones at the Department of Labor or the Department of Agriculture, for example. But this one seems to strike a different chord, given it's the Department of Justice. Historically, administrations have tried to stress a level of independence between the West Wing and the White House and their Justice Department, arguing that politics doesn't influence who is being prosecuted. But it's safe to say that line has been erased since President Trump has taken office in his second term. We've seen him directly pressure the Attorney General to prosecute people who he perceives as his political enemies or people who have led prosecutions against him. The Justice Department says this banner is in honor of America's upcoming 250th birthday celebration. But if you look at this banner closely, it also echoes what President Trump himself has said, talking about the slogan, "Make America safe again."
And I'm not quite sure why Trump reposted that. Maybe he thought it was a good thing. Also, he shares that there's biased spies in the CIA because the CIA just rescinded or revised 19 intelligence reports over political bias. Also, we know about how in 2023 there was a train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio that caused quite a mess. Well, Trump says he lived up to his promise in East Palestine, sharing an article. And this is in regard to a $10 million NIH health study that was launched on February 3rd, 2026. And the White House calls the State of the Union strong because America is safer. Thanks to President Trump, law and order is back. And they also say the goal is always peace, and Trump reposted that. So that was everything Trump talked about today. We got to see him say he's going to raise his 10% tariff to a 15% tariff and find other legal pathways to do so, as well as calling out some corruption in Biden's Justice Department and calling out Susan Rice on the board of Netflix. As always, if you want to support this channel, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys tomorrow.